Both me and Ben went into this. Apparently, he never actually apologised for the hijacking of Be Real he told me that he was going to do.
I don't mind. It's funny.
Also, did you actually give him the potatoes?
I did not actually give him the potatoes, unfortunately. I ate the potatoes. I didn't have a heart to tell you guys.
Oh, he's finding out now this is being recorded.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I was hungry.
He watches all the videos back as well.
Someone who doesn't know us, like, as a group watching these videos, and so, like, how do we go from discussing, like, objective morality, potatoes?
That's genuinely. I think people find it interesting. Run away. That just like this is just guys on the internet just living their best life, and this is partly about what the new YouTube channel is about, because I think the friendship group we have is got so many different personality types that it can work really well together.
I don't remember my personality type.
James,
Myers-Briggs. Oh my god.
you may not realize what your personality type is, James, but trust me, you have one.
There was a J in there somewhere, possibly. Yeah, I was typing as a J.
We don't use this type of personality type mentality, because that, for me, that's not where your actual personality is. It's what other people think of you as a person.
It's funny. I think that's very sure. Have you read? There's this book called, I'm trying to remember. It's like Everyone's Stupid or something. What I remember is there's like 4 people on the cover that are silhouettes, and like one's red, one's blue, one's green, and one's yellow. It's very interesting, but
you see, James, you do a lot more reading than me. I'm sorry to say, but I don't really read.
James, there's this book. Like it. You might have already read it. It's called To Like the Lightning. Interesting. Tell me about it. It's set in. Do I have the book on me? I don't have the book on me. That's fine. I remember it. It was set in 2454, I believe. It's kind of like this sci-fi futuristic setting with like world building. It's cool, and lots of random philosophical. Well, I mean, it makes sense in the context of the thing, but lots of like philosophical stuff in there. Okay, interesting. So I take it it's kind of fiction, but philosophical. Yeah. Fiction that have like philosophical stuff in it. I don't know. I'll find this kind of. I don't even know what you'd call it. I shall look into it and learn about a bit about the book, because it does sound good. Oh, sorry. Speaking of books, I've been reminded. I need to read A Brave New World. I need to read A Brave New World. It's so good. I've heard good things about it. And it's like the kind of thing that I'm interested in. Like, I did my PhD on like CRISPR genome editing. That's kind of like ethical conundrum that gets my brain going. So like, yeah. Oh yeah, but yeah, no, it's marvelous. I mean, in every way. I also have. This is exciting. I used to think it was American. Turns out it's British. So it's better now. Yeah, it was good anyway, but now it's much improved.
That's the case with all things. Like as soon as you realise it's British, like yeah, it's a good book now. Recently thought it was a bad one, but
Yes. Yeah. I think the only 2 nationalities that I would say their books are automatically questionable is American for obvious reasons, and Austrian.
Austrian. Oh, okay.
Why Austria?
Now I get the Austrian. I can't think of any other one apart from one, to be honest.
And he had some wacky ideas, and he's interestingly enough, he's not actually best known for his publishing works.
I don't think best known is the right phrase to use.
I think it's fair to call him infamous.
Infamous would work.
The thing is, obviously, he's a horrible person. But also, his paintings were not great.
And
I've heard that the perspective was... the perspective, one of his paintings, if you look at the perspective, the angles of the edge of the building and the windows are completely different. And not in a nitpick difference. There's a 45-degree difference between where the windows of the building are facing and the actual wall is facing. It's
James, that must annoy you as an architecture student even more.
Oh, it must. How does that make you feel? Is it
You're an architecture student, so that must really annoy you.
I have to say, controversial maybe, not the biggest qualm I have with the guy. I suppose that makes sense. Of the long list, I guess it might be there somewhere. But not one of the priorities.
What do you actually make of his architecture as a whole?
We wasn't an architect as far as I know.
Well, yes, but in terms of what is the Nazi style of architecture?
Is this on YouTube?
Yes.
I should maybe cut this.
But it's fine.
I have my views now because saying that makes it sound awful. I think, autocrats in general, in their nature, have complete control of the state, or near as complete as one can get, which means they can levy its entire resources into whatever it is they fancy doing. And in a democracy, that's obviously not the case. If a politician announces he's spending £60 billion on a single building, there would be national outcry. And so for that reason, autocrats tend to make more, if you will, visually impressive buildings.
James, I'm just going to stop you there. When have you ever actually, I went to Poland on holiday, so I've seen the USSR architecture. It is horrible. It is generally the worst architecture I've ever seen.
So the communists, the communists were fascinating. So some of the stuff they did is some of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. I don't know if you've ever, I assume not, but if you've ever been to Moscow's metro system, the stations there are just they're absolutely gorgeous. Interestingly, it was, I can't remember his name, unfortunately. I think it might have been a few presidents before Gorbachev or something. But there was a
Boris Yeltsin
shift in USSR's policy away from spending large quantities of money on visually beautiful buildings, and they changed it to a far more pragmatic approach, which is when you saw the introduction of things like commie blocks. So it is, I think it might have been out of fun. I don't know, I'll need to find out.
I think it was mainly 1980s or 90s. The commune blocks would definitely...
Possible. I'm really not sure.
But in terms of Nazi architecture, isn't that nice either?
I think one important thing to remember is they were only around for about a decade, so they didn't actually do all that much. But if you look at some of their plans for what they were intending to build, it is, I dare say, even objectively, it's incredibly impressive to say the least. They had plans for, in I think Berlin, to build a hall or coliseum. There's not even really a word for it, but imagine the Royal Albert Hall, but maybe 10 times the size, and the central auditorium, which would have a domed roof, would have been so sizable and been able to hold such a capacity of people, that it would have generated its own atmosphere from the sweat of the people there. It is just madness. I think autocrats have a greater capacity for more impressive public works. That's not a good thing.
They have a capacity. It's like that. What they say in the good old Shrek quote when referring to Donkey, saying, "I have a right to remain silent," and Shrek replies, "You have a capacity. Well, you have the right, but what you lack is the capacity." But technically, you're right by saying that theoretically they should be able to make nicer looking architecture, but in reality, they do not.
I would perhaps hesitate to say in reality they do not. I think most autocratic states are generally unstable, and so they don't last particularly long. But if you look to the pyramids of Egypt, if you look to the follies of the countryside of Britain, if you look to whatever it is
that not age?
Built under autocrats.
I think it's a genuine question. Is that not just because it's old? Like, it's not human memory.
Not always.
Like, you don't. And
I
so
agree.
part of the reason you dislike the architecture. So loads of people say now that these like Tudor buildings are really, really nice. I am one of these people. But at the time, every single one of these buildings looked like a Tudor building, and they must have thought, "Oh, it's just like a standard new build." And
generally,
we obviously don't know their actual opinions, but my hypothesis is that as things get older and people forget the actual times associated with it, that people romanticize places more.
I would agree. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Wait, say that again, sorry. I was just saying the word nostalgia. I have no point. My Wi-Fi cuts out. I haven't heard anything Stephen said. Oh, right, that's fair. Hopefully you might be able to get some from context. I think I would say absolutely. There is a degree of nostalgia that comes with the past. I'm not going to deny that. It's very well recorded, and it does keep cropping up. I think, though, I would say there is a difference between forgetting, or if you like, sentimentalizing a time period, which happens constantly, and the physical aesthetics of the building. And so for that reason, I'd say it's harder to romanticize a building itself when you're in front of it, because it's kind of, you're facing the reality of it, quite literally. But